Welcome to Living History Channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one.
Daredevil aerialist Betty Fox performed in 1945 from the roof of Michigan's Fort Shelby Hotel, thrilling crowds with fearless acrobatics that reflected post-war America's hunger for spectacle. See a stunning, lifelike reconstruction of a Stone Age woman created using archaeological and anatomical evidence, bringing us face to face with a real human presence from thousands of years ago, beyond bones and artifacts. Eva Herzegovina, photographed by Andrea Blanche for Glamour in May 1993, stands at the height of the supermodel era, an image that captures 1990s fashion culture, media influence, and the making of global style icons. Margaret Bourke-White, Life magazine photographer, prepares to shoot from an eagle on the 61st floor of New York's Chrysler Building in 1934. A striking moment of daring, modernity, and the rise of industrial photography. January 12, 1888. Temperatures plunged 40 degrees within minutes as a blizzard struck without warning. 19-year-old Minnie Freeman faced one choice with 13 children: stay and freeze, or lead them into the storm. Every child survived. Circa 1935, the models for Grant Wood's American Gothic pose beside the painting itself, a defining image of rural America whose stern faces and quiet tension became an enduring symbol of the 1930s. Isaac W. Sprague, 1841 to 1887, suffered extreme muscular wasting after a childhood illness. Unable to work, he became a sideshow attraction, even hired by P.T. Barnum. He died penniless, remembered as a symbol of endurance and human dignity. Estonian engineer Uno Porti tested his hydrocopter in Viljandi in 1912, an early and daring experiment to combine aviation ideas with water travel during the pioneering age of flight. Chief John Smith, called White Wolf, was a respected Chippewa leader. This circa 1915 photo reflects resilience, wisdom, and the living heritage of his people. John Powell, photographed in 1889 after a 2-year sentence for killing a sheep to steal its meat. This stark prison portrait reflects Victorian justice, rural crime, and the raw honesty of early institutional photography. Private Henare Roweti of New Zealand's 28th Maori Battalion trained in Britain, then fought in the Middle East. He was mortally wounded on Crete in May 1941, aged 29, and is remembered in Greece and at Auckland's War Memorial. Many WWII German officers bore facial scars from mensur, an academic fencing tradition. These Schmiss marks symbolized honor and toughness, separate from battle wounds, reflecting a brutal pre-war student culture. Tet Offensive, 1968. A U.S. Marine with an M40 sniper rifle fights in Hue, marking a turning point as Marines shifted from advisory roles to full-scale urban combat in Vietnam. Prohibition, 1920 to 1933, aimed to curb vice by banning alcohol, but instead fueled speakeasies, organized crime, corruption, and public defiance. Enforcement failed, jobs vanished, gangs prospered, and the law was repealed in 1933. Stanislaw Stimler was a Polish baker deported to Auschwitz, where he survived only 17 days. A photograph taken shortly before his death preserves his face, reminding us that every victim of genocide was a real person with a life and dignity. Tommy Greer watched his father lynched as a boy in Arkansas. Years later, shaped by loss and violence, he chose the law, turning inherited rage into restraint and enforcing justice without bloodshed. Jane Fonda's role as Kitty Twist in Walk on the Wild Side, 1962, revealed her raw intensity early on. Though not the lead, her streetwise, restless presence marked a turning point toward darker, more complex roles. Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor stand beside Murphy's Rolls-Royce Corniche, a moment capturing comedy royalty and the passing of influence between generations. Soldier of the 95th Pennsylvania Infantry stands in abandoned Confederate works at Centerville, 1862, posing before a painted log Quaker gun, wearing the distinctive gauze-line Zouave uniform. Before becoming Donald Trump's mother, Mary Ann MacLeod immigrated from Scotland in 1930 with just $50, worked as a maid in New York, and slowly built a new life, an immigrant story shaped by hardship, resilience, and determination. John Glenn, a U.S. Marine aviator and WWII Korean War veteran, flew 149 combat missions, shot down 3 MiGs, became the first American to orbit Earth in 1962, and returned to space at 77, embodying courage, science, and service. Dolores Del Rio hosted elegant 1930s California gatherings at her Santa Monica home, where friends like Lily DeMita, Gary Cooper, and Errol Flynn played tennis, swam, and raised funds for the Motion Picture Relief Fund. Old Hollywood glamour at its peak. Oxford Street in 1950s London bustled with post-war life. Crowded buses, shop windows glowing, and pedestrians rebuilding routines amid rationing's end, and a city slowly reclaiming its energy. 1974. Newly unearthed terracotta warriors revealed vivid original paint after 2,200 years. Exposure to air caused pigments and lacquer to flake within hours, making these early photos rare records of their true ancient colors. In the early 1980s, British patrol/company medics carried basic trauma and first aid gear, bandages, dressings, splints, and drugs like morphine and antibiotics. They didn't have modern medical Bergens, but used small packs tailored to unit needs. U.S. soldiers of the 102nd Infantry Division stand beside a whitewashed M4 Sherman in Brachelen, Germany, January 1945. Wearing British snow camouflage, they mark the final winter push into the Reich. On 22 January 1901, Queen Victoria died quietly at Osborne House. Surrounded by family, prayer, and candlelight, she passed without spectacle, an empire ending in silence, devotion, and the soft hush of a winter afternoon. During wartime, carrier pigeons ensured communication when radios failed. Flying through fire, they carried vital messages across fronts. Their bravery was honored with the Dickin Medal, awarded for courage in service. On July 30th, 1943, a lone B-17 tail gunner faced German fighters from the most isolated post in the sky, armed with 2 guns, frozen air, and seconds to survive. It was called the loneliest job of the war. At Shiloh, April 6 to 7th, 1862, Confederate General Ruggles massed 62 cannons into a single devastating line. This unprecedented artillery barrage shattered the Union's hornet's nest, forcing surrender after 12 brutal hours. In 1954, Anne Hodges was resting on her couch in Alabama when a grapefruit-sized meteorite tore through the roof, struck a radio, and hit her side. She survived, becoming the only confirmed human ever struck by a meteorite. This photograph dates to World War I in neutral Netherlands, where formal military parades and inspections were common. The seated men are likely officers or civic officials, and the Bodegraven stamp points to the location of the event. The Little Foxes, 1941, directed by William Wyler, portrays the wealthy Hubbard family in the early 1900s American South, where greed and ambition corrode family bonds and reveal the moral decay beneath privilege. Shown here are First Lieutenant Albert T. Lamson on the left and Captain Edward Everett Sill on the right, a period photograph reflecting the discipline, hierarchy, and personal faces of U.S. Army officers in the early 20th century. A teenage girl stands in a doorway in the 1940s, her hair curled with cloth rags instead of pins, reflecting wartime scarcity, everyday ingenuity, and the quiet resilience of ordinary life. Al Sieber, legendary U.S. Army scout, was gravely wounded during fighting with Apache warriors in Arizona. A shattered leg ended his field career, but not his resolve, sealing his legacy as a symbol of frontier endurance and hard-won experience. In 1966, Castle Coombe was turned into the 1845 village of Puddleby-on-the-Marsh for Dr. Dolittle. Modern features were removed. A concrete dam altered the stream, angering locals, leading a young Ranulph Fiennes to attempt sabotage. James Hard, the last known Union combat veteran, died in 1953 at age 109. His birthplace, near Victor, New York, remains a quiet reminder linking the American Civil War directly to the modern era. In 1923, Mary Pickford received a visit from Douglas Fairbanks and Theda Bara on the set of Rosita, a rare behind-the-scenes moment capturing the camaraderie of Hollywood's silent-era icons. In 1931, Helen Chandler and Bela Lugosi appeared in a promotional photo for the pre-code horror film Dracula, a landmark production that cemented Lugosi's iconic portrayal and reshaped the language of cinematic horror. In 1880's Stockholm, two well-dressed gentlemen pose with their equally dapper dog, capturing urban elegance, a rising middle class, and the quiet bond between people and pets in late 19th century Europe. In the early 1900s, Captain B. Frank Gurley appears at a reunion of Company C 4th Alabama Cavalry veterans, symbolizing remembrance, reconciliation, and the lasting bonds formed during the American Civil War. Monitor ships, introduced in the American Civil War, were low-profile ironclads with rotating turrets. Designed for rivers and coasts, they proved armor and firepower, not speed, defined the future of naval warfare. This 1926 Norman Rockwell painting depicts an elderly man descending the stairs at night, lantern in one hand and a revolver in the other. His calm expression amid shadows creates quiet suspense, suggesting resolve, vigilance, and restrained courage. This Polish military vehicle is displayed at a military vehicle collector's meet at the Hagerstown Aviation Museum in Maryland, offering a tangible link to 20th century European warfare, engineering, and the lived history of armed service. Pandemonium, circa 1841, by John Martin, depicts Hell's capital from Milton's Paradise Lost, Satan stands commanding a vast, firelit city of classical order, an image of rebellion, ambition, and fallen grandeur, embodying the romantic sublime. This 1946 photo shows the old Methodist chapel, later Joe Snowden's Army surplus store. The wedding is Elsie Reddyhow and a member of the Bancroft family from Oxenhope, while the narrator appears as a 3-year-old in his father's arms. Inside Apollo 1's sealed module, Grissom, White, and Chaffee prepared for a routine test when fire erupted in pure oxygen. Their sudden deaths shocked NASA, yet reshaped spaceflight safety for all who followed. The medieval rack, used in Europe from the 14th to 17th centuries, stretched victims on a wooden frame to force confessions. Joints dislocated under strain. Guy Fawkes was famously tortured on it after the 1605 gunpowder plot.
Thanks for watching. I'm always hunting for lost photos and untold stories. Got a time period in mind? Let me know in the comments.